Steve Robbins here, and welcome to the Get It Done Guys quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. I just found out that one of my favorite childhood books was recently re-released. It's called From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Konigsberg. And in it, the little girl Claudia has to find a file that proves whether or not Michelangelo was the sculptor of a beautiful statue of an angel at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. So, she's given 1 hour and a room with files from wall to wall and ceiling to floor. The catch is she doesn't know where it's filed. My art geek friends love the book because they're like, ooh, the kids hide out in the Met. I love the book for the filing cabinets. I was destined to be an organization geek, so sue me. Now, filing systems, paper or not, are notorious for things going in but never coming out. Just remember the final scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark? They bury the Ark of the Covenant for all time by filing it in a government warehouse. If you're under 18, you may be wondering what the fuss is. Give it 10 years. As you find stuff that's too valuable or too legal or too fun or too incriminating to throw away, you'll want to keep it. One time-honored way is by using a filing cabinet. And yes, even if you're under 25, you will find that you want to keep things that can't just be scanned into the digital world. Besides, your online file folders are probably as scattered as most of the paper ones. The first secret to good filing is to choose your file topics carefully. For example, let's say you're an evil super genius and you're making plans to take over the world. You create a plan to build a doomsday device and hold the world hostage. You have another plan to corner the market on thread. No more fashionable clothes, ever. And of course, you have your fallback plan where you create zombies to do your bidding. You might be tempted to file all of them in a folder labeled Taking Over the World, but that's way too general, and here's why. Imagine you're walking through the grocery store, and on the back top shelf of the baking aisle, you see a little canister of extra-strength zombie to life. Well, given the convenience, you decide to go the zombie route. So you come home and you start implementing your dastardly plan, but every time you pull out your file, you have to leaf through your notes on doomsday bombs and thread markets, all mixed up in your zombie files. Oy vey, what a mess! The problem is your folder topic is too general. You really need specific folders, one for each plan. So a better labeling scheme would be 3 folders titled Doomsday Device, Thread Market Takeover, and Zombie Creation. Then when you grabbed a folder, you would get only the information on the project at hand. But don't take the subdividing thing too far. If you divide your Doomsday Device folder into Watch Dr. Strangelove for Ideas, Doomsday Device Thoughts, and Doomsday Device Materials lists, well, now you spread your material through so many folders, you'll need to pull them all out at once to get anything done. So be as general as you can with your folders, so each folder has everything you need on a topic, without being so general that you also include a lot of irrelevant stuff. There's an even deeper principle hiding here. You really want to file stuff according to how you'll want to retrieve it. So when you go to put something in a file, ask yourself, when am I likely to need this? And then ask, what am I likely to be thinking at that moment? Put the file there. For example, I run workshops and do public speaking. When I did a session for a client, I would file it under my client's name. So if I did a session called Oprah or Iacocca, Becoming a Powerful Leader for Widgets Incorporated, which is not my client's real name, initially I filed my session under, quote, Widgets Incorporated dash Oprah or Iacocca. Now, while I was working for Widgets Incorporated, that was great. I always found the file. Several years later, though, someone called and said, I saw you do a session called Oprah or Iacocca a while back. Could you do it for my company? Well, neither of us remembered where I had given it. It wasn't under O for Oprah or L for leadership. Oops. So, where should I have filed it? Let's think. When am I likely to want that file? Well, certainly if Widgets Incorporated calls and says, please send us the handouts from that session you gave. Or if someone calls and says, can you do your Oprah Iacocca session? Or if someone calls and says, do you have any leadership sessions? And I suppose I would also want the file if someone calls and asks, what topics do you have already prepared? So, I'd like to file the speech under W for Widgets, O for Oprah, L for leadership, and S for sessions. But a lot of times clients change the session titles to meet their needs, so filing it under O is a bad idea because the title might change. So, here's my solution. Every folder for a speech or workshop gets labeled Session -Leadership Oprah or Iacocca. Then I put a sticky note in my widgets file saying I did the leadership session Oprah or Iacocca for this client. Now all of my sessions are together in one part of the file drawer, so I always know that I can find a session that I've done by looking somewhere in the sessions area. Within sessions, they're alphabetical according to topic, so for example, leadership in this case. And lastly, I can still see the exact title on the label also. If you file for retrieval like this, you'll find your files much easier to use. So, let's review. Always file according to when you'll need the information and what you'll be thinking at that time. Make your file labels general enough to hold whatever you might want at the time, but specific enough that you're not leafing through lots of extra cruft. Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler does indeed have a file proving the origin of the Metropolitan Museum's statue, and it's filed in a way that would make it easy for her to retrieve it. Whether Claudia manages the task, well, you'll just have to pick up the book and find out. You can also find a transcript of this episode at the website. So work less, do more, and have a